Do you have any friends who have been disappointed with the political events of the last 2 years?
Absolutely. Disappointment abounds.
Well, I've got a lot of frustration to spread around. I'm frustrated with the way the Democratic Party has conducted itself just in terms of setting up the politics of this election season, and I'm furious about some of the actual policy things they've done.
However justifiably, people who did think that when Obama came in, politics were going to look different, and there was going to be a new voice added to the mix that wasn't there before, and that hasn't happened.
There was a ton of energy. I remember watching it on the TV in a basement, and when they called California for Obama, an enormous rush of people ran out onto the Central Quad and started singing the national anthem, and there's an American flag, and there's a lot of joy that night.
The feeling, 2 years later, as we approach the 2010 midterm elections, is quite different than the enthusiasm of 2008. For young voters, the politics of hope has given way to a politics of disillusionment on the left and fear and anger on the right.
This war is, if you want to be cynical about it, nation building war.
To get a read on young voters' political pulse, we attended the weekly Yale Political Union debate, where members of different political parties gather.
To be honest, I'm still kind of curious what war effort we're talking about, what the actual effort is of the war we're engaged in. Mr. McCown described it as quasi-nation building.
I consider myself a liberal, or what I would like to say is I'm on the contemporary American left.
Christian, conservative, Republican, in that order. In an ideal world, conservative and Republican would be redundant, but...
I identify as a leftist, just on the left, I would say.
I used to strongly identify with the religious right, and today I am a Christian and a leftist.
My name's Leah Anthony Labresco, and I'm a liberal.
People are afraid. They don't want their lives to change. And, it's sort of like, I for a long time, sort of like, elections, the way I live isn't really going to change that much. Things come and go, things aren't going to affect my life. But people are getting the sense that actually, like, this guy that was just elected is going to change my life. He is going to change things. And that, more often than not, is something that kind of inspires fear and resentment.
It's very difficult to get a job, and when you don't know why you can't get a job, it's especially when the government is so much in our minds, in the media, in the discourse, it's tempting to blame the government for your economic woes.
It's sort of vague dissatisfaction with American leadership, like, why can't you fix this? I don't get what this is going on. This is what we elected you to do. You're supposed to understand this better. You're supposed to prevent things like this from happening.
Most lay people don't understand the economy. It looks like most Wall Street people didn't understand the economy, and many economists didn't understand the economy. And a lot of the election is going to be driven by the fact that people are upset. They have little to no control over this, and part of the only bit of control that we had to exercise all year that feels like it's in any way tied to their crippling economic position is to go into the ballot box and pull the lever next to not the incumbent.
While the economy is a concern to voters in general, for students, the issues of immigration, civil liberties, and Obama's hold on executive power have led to greater disappointment.
And then incompetence demonstrated by the failure to repeal Don't Ask, Don't Tell.
A Don't Ask, Don't Tell could have been ended with one stroke of the pen by President Obama in an executive order.
One of my major disappointments was how much executive power he chose to maintain after President Bush left office. There was a broad hope on the left and among my friends that we would go back to seeing a more transparent, more accountable executive branch, and we haven't really.
The failure to message about Republican obstructionism in a way that would actually get people to listen.
However disappointed, students on the left do recognize the healthcare reform as one of the Obama administration's key accomplishments.
The healthcare bill was a tremendous victory. It was a slightly flawed victory, but that shouldn't eclipse the fact that tremendous things were won.
The progress that has been made with healthcare reform is something that could still be being talked about. It's something that could still be being kind of feted as one of the more legitimately concrete achievements of both the Obama administration and the democratically controlled Congress. after these 2 years, which I don't really see anyone doing.
Conservative students, however, cite healthcare reform as a rallying cry for their own renewed sense of political activism.
The idea, I mean, a lot of the stuff about Obamacare that makes me very uncomfortable is that my health becomes the concern of the state.
Are you a member of the Tea Party?
Yeah, I mean, I consider myself one, not that there are sort of, explicit membership, lines or boundaries. I think it's Grover Norquist has this phrase, the Leave Us Alone Coalition, that I very strongly sympathize with, and I think that's largely what they're looking for. I think they're tired of governments sort of thinking they can solve problems, particularly in ways that they find problematic. I wouldn't necessarily look to the Tea Party for solutions, but I still think they're a useful thing for discourse.
Well, now our government is trying to take away the ability for you to choose on how to help.
Sometimes I feel like I understand where they're coming from, in that anger in politics is not always unjustified. I question a lot of their means, and I sometimes wonder, in fact I often wonder, what it is they really want. Much of it seems contradictory, much of it seems unwise, even if it is coherent, and I think a world, or an America actually run with Tea Party policies would be an America that no one would like better.
Frankly, in a lot of ways, I think Obama would be doing politically better now if he had been more confidently to the left. I mean, not exactly the sort of flag-burning radical that many on the right paint him as, but I think confident is the key word, because confidently on the left was one thing he definitely didn't seem to be.
And do you think that Obama and Democrats can continue counting on the youth vote? That was such an important and massive element of the successful 2008 presidential election?
I don't think that they can, but I think that they should take the uncertainty of the youth vote, and perhaps the way that either in actuality or in perception, the way that they have alienated the youth vote. I think that they should take that as an opportunity to look at the way that they're pursuing policies, to look at the way that they're pursuing messaging, to take it as an opportunity to really think about what they want to accomplish.
One of the greatest things that the president has done is really try to engage the youth, and whether or not that will continue through the midterms and through 2012, it was good then, and I hope someone continues it.
Despite their disappointments, the students we spoke to say they will still turn out for the 2010 midterm election.
So even when you're upset with the Democratic Party, and I'm upset, it doesn't mean you get to stop supporting them, because they've got me over a barrel. What am I going to do, support the Republicans?
I'm glad to say that most of my friends recognize that even the battles that we have lost were worth fighting, and worth fighting again. And that means that they will be on the ground working for their candidates in the midterms and in 2012. And they're not going to give up on the policies just because they didn't always get what they want.
There are some areas where I just don't think he's tried hard enough. There are some areas where he could have done more.
Students say that frustration with the political system may extend beyond the ballot box to a new populist politics on the left.
These disappointments don't make me want to drop out of the political process, but they do make me want to reconsider the ways that we engage American politics. I think that people should be taking more seriously the example of American political icons like Martin Luther King, who challenged the political process in a way that didn't just come down to getting the most votes for things. If we're serious about creating a politics of hope rather than fear, if we're serious about helping people at the bottom and helping people on the margins and not just catering to corporate interests and to the interests of power, I think we have to look at wider ways of engaging American politics beyond just voting and donating money. I think sometimes it involves putting ourselves on the line.